But you are focusing more on the time, moment, and the space in which this becomes possible. So this was a little outside of my intention. But of course, it's very important. Of course, there must be some reason. You are seeing to a kind of collective profanation. So my question was, and it's really, this is the question, but my intention was more to how a possible use then will be possible, and not the very important motivation that will push the people to do it, which of course is fundamental. Without this, without an encounter of truth, or without something, nothing will happen. But nevertheless, I would like to also to understand then what is the use that could result from this kairos, from this moment.
It was a question of relation to truth. Also what you call usage, and you said it's a very complex and important thing. That means it is obviously a new way to understand usage. You maybe help us here a little bit. Okay. What kind of usage you have in mind as a true usage, the authentic usage? Is there any indication for that, or is it just the empty hope you have to fill?
Yeah, I agree always with Foucault methodology. So never try to work with what he called les universaux. Okay. So general universal concept, which could be employed in different contexts. So the notion of use becomes concrete only in a certain context. For instance, just to give an example, one concrete dimension, or even historical dimension of the problem of use, is in the struggle between the Franciscan movement and the church. The Franciscan order were a poor order, so they could own nothing. But they, nevertheless, pretended to use without having the right to. So the Pope said, okay, you don't have the property, the church has the property, we give to you the right to use, usufructus technically. And they said, no, we do not want the right to use, we want the usus facti, the factual use without any right. And so a big struggle was born from that, really big, no? We remember how kind of fighting, so a really big struggle. But then there is simple, you see, the concept of use is in order to neutralize the concept of right, of property, of law. So if a possible sphere is possible where there is she's a criminal.
And she's Italian too.
And she's taking it. That I think is the first step to interrupt it, not to take the call. You know?
So what's saying? So in this way they were trying to open a lawless space. Right? So the wager was huge. So the concept of use was something that could neutralize the notion of property.
Okay, but we have to, sorry, professors first, yes, okay. Steve. But we have here 3 or 4 on the other side.
We're in the dispositive then.
Yeah, no,
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm very interested in your concept of play, and play as an extreme form of profanation, and the idea that play, in a way, is the profanation of what was part of the sacred, because it's also been maintained by someone like Huizinga in Homo Ludens, for example, that the sacred emerged as a form of secularization of play. The play element actually is the primary element in culture. And I wonder whether one way of thinking about this kind of subjectivity, this is not a new idea, but I'm just wondering what you think of it, is as a kind of a ludic subjectivity. That the play, not just for children, but for us, can always open up a space with the dispositive. And the example that comes to my mind is in the Republican National Convention, when suddenly a group of people very elegantly dressed and drinking champagne and wearing tuxedos pulled up in a limousine outside and demanded admittance to the convention on the grounds that they were billionaires for Bush. And these billionaires for Bush had signs, and the signs were "for more wars," and things like that. And each one of them was a kind of a mockery, buffoonery of the very dispositivity of the Republican Party itself. And they were admitted. They were admitted into the convention, and they actually moved around and talked to people, and then finally they were discovered and thrown out. But it was incredibly, to my mind, provocative profanation of this dispositive, and it was through the spirit of play. And I wonder if that is something that's part of it, and how that might connect with this notion of use, because that could be a slightly different realm. Yeah.
So, of course, what you're saying is true. I made the example of play and game because it seems to me particularly evident, particularly clear, no? In which way a profanation can be achieved. But then I would be prudent. I'm not recommending the homo ludens model, that a ludic society. Why? Why? Because it's very simple. In our society, play has been captured in a dispositive and separated in a peculiar sphere, which is the game, the play. So most of the game are in the TV or in a stadium, you call it. So it's separate. So the play and the game has been cut and transformed in dispositive. So one task would be how to free the play. So the play is very fragile. Nothing is so fragile like play, and there is a sign for this. This is the toy. There is nothing more embarrassing and sad than a toy when the play is finished. The children do not know what to do with them. The toy is a rest, a trace of the fact that the play is closed. So but it is a very good example, and then if there would be more play, but not separated in TV or in certain places, but in the day, I always agree with the great Greek poet Cavafy, who said, no more than 1 serious hour in the day.
Okay, let me.
But once